The Galactic Council was not a group of beings that anyone could easily convince. Made up of the most advanced alien species in the galaxy, it held immense power. The Council's technology surpassed anything that Earth could dream of. But now, a new question was surfacing in their deliberations. Should Earth, a planet once considered insignificant due to its primitive ways, be allowed to remain untouched in the midst of a galactic war? Earth had long been observed from afar, its people living in ignorance of the cosmic forces around them. But recently, things had changed. The rise of humans as a technological force had caught the attention of the Council. What had once been a small, isolated planet, full of internal strife, was now developing advanced weapons, AI systems, and cloaking technology that made the galaxy's top strategists uneasy. The Council was filled with many different species, some peaceful, others more aggressive, but all shared a single concern: humans. The question wasn't whether Earth should be involved in the conflict. It was whether humanity would be a valuable ally or an uncontrollable force that would tip the balance of power in the galaxy. In the midst of this heated debate sat a human diplomat named Jonathan Clark. Jonathan had been selected for this delicate mission because of his ability to understand both human nature and alien customs. He was tasked with negotiating peace, a mission that had become increasingly difficult. The decision on Earth's fate hung in the balance, and Jonathan was the last line of defense. If he could convince the Council to keep Earth out of the war, then perhaps they would have a chance at survival. But Jonathan was no fool. He knew that the Council's decision was not based on logic alone. The alien officer sitting across from him, a battle-hardened leader of the Varkath, a species with massive technological superiority, was skeptical of humanity's intentions. The Varkath had fought countless battles, and they saw humans as a wild card. Humans had never encountered a force like the Galactic Council before. Would they fight alongside the Council or turn on them? An unpredictable and dangerous threat. Jonathan had only moments to present his case. He spoke passionately about Earth's desire for peace, the potential for collaboration, and the need for understanding between species. He carefully crafted every word, aware that one wrong move could doom his planet to destruction. His arguments were sound. Earth was still in its infancy when it came to space travel, and many on the planet were against engaging in an intergalactic war. But the alien officer, whose name was Therak, listened with cold indifference. His species had seen countless civilizations rise and fall. To Therak, Earth was just another in a long line of fragile planets that could either ally with them or become a threat. His kind had survived wars far more devastating than anything humanity could imagine. The officer made no effort to hide his disdain for Earth's primitive nature. "Your people may think you are ready for peace," Therak growled, his voice deep and almost mechanical, "but you have no idea what you're up against. The galaxy does not suffer weakness." The tension in the room was palpable. Jonathan could see the distrust in Therak's eyes. Earth's fate was teetering on the edge. If the Council saw humanity as too much of a risk, they would have no choice but to engage them in the war, forcing Earth into a fight for its very survival. Just as Jonathan was about to respond, the atmosphere in the room shifted. There was a sudden tremor, followed by a blinding flash of light outside the diplomatic ship's windows. The Council members jumped from their seats, confusion and alarm spreading across their faces. The room was filled with the sounds of alarms blaring, and the rapid exchange of alien languages. A voice, filled with urgency, crackled through Jonathan's communicator. "Sir, there's been an explosion. One of the smaller ships, a part of our fleet, has been hit." He could barely hear the rest of the message as the sound of a distant rumble filled the air. Jonathan's heart raced. This was no accident. He quickly turned to Therak, who was already on his feet, his claws twitching with suspicion. "What was that?" Jonathan demanded. Therak's eyes narrowed as he looked out the window, his sharp alien senses detecting the cause of the disturbance long before anyone else could comprehend it. The massive warships of the Council were already positioning themselves around the diplomatic ship. But they weren't here for peace. They were here to enforce a decision, and that decision was one Jonathan did not want to face. Humanity, Therak muttered, more to himself than to Jonathan. You didn't listen. Now we will make you. In that moment, Jonathan realized what was happening. The council had already made up its mind. They weren't interested in diplomacy anymore. The explosion wasn't just an accident. It was a signal, a prelude to the invasion that had now begun. A fleet of alien warships, including massive dreadnoughts and AI-controlled fighter ships, was approaching Earth's system. The Council had decided that humanity would not be left out of the Galactic War, whether Earth wanted it or not. Jonathan quickly activated his communicator to send a desperate message to Earth. The words echoed in his mind as he typed them out, the urgency clear in his voice. Please, don't unleash humanity into this war. We are not prepared. But it was too late. The fleet of alien warships was already moving, their cloaked figures cutting through the vast expanse of space. The Council had made its choice, and now Earth had no choice but to fight, or face annihilation. Just as the realization hit him, Jonathan received a covert message from Earth's leaders. It was brief but filled with enough information to send chills down his spine. Earth had already begun preparing for war. Jonathan had tried to warn them, but humanity was different, resilient and full of surprises. Earth had developed advanced cloaking devices, AI-driven combat systems, and experimental weapons that no one could have anticipated. Jonathan knew the decision had been made. The fate of Earth, and perhaps the galaxy, was now in his hands. He had no time to waste. If he could warn the Council of Earth's preparedness, perhaps there was still a chance. But the stakes were higher than ever. The balance of power had shifted. A new force had entered the equation, one that was as dangerous as it was unknown. As the alien warships grew closer, Jonathan made his final plea. The future of Earth hung on a knife's edge, and the galaxy's destiny rested on whether the Council could control the unpredictable power of humanity. The diplomat's voice, strained and full of emotion, carried one final message that rang out across the diplomatic ship. We are not the threat you think we are, but we will not back down. Outside, the stars seemed to dim as the darkness of war loomed closer. The Galactic Council was in turmoil. Members of various alien species, each with their own motives and agendas, debated heatedly in their grand chambers. The Council had been debating humanity's fate for days now, and each member was struggling with what to do about Earth's unpredictable emergence as a major player on the galactic stage. The stakes were higher than ever, and no decision could be made lightly. On one side, there were those who believed humanity's involvement would bring about a catastrophic outcome. These members argued that Earth, despite its advanced technology, was still too young and too volatile to be trusted. Humanity had a history of chaos and destruction, and many saw their lack of control over their own weapons and AI as too much of a risk. They feared that if Earth were allowed to join the war, it could escalate into something much worse, a conflict that could engulf the entire galaxy. Then there were others who, despite acknowledging the dangers of Earth, saw the humans as a unique and unpredictable force. These members believed that humanity's unpredictability could be used to their advantage. Their survival instincts, the unyielding will to overcome seemingly insurmountable odds, were qualities that could be harnessed if directed properly. They argued that the human spirit, when united, was a powerful tool in warfare, one that could potentially tip the balance in favor of the Council. But these voices of reason were drowned out by the more cautious and aggressive members of the Council. The decision was quickly becoming one-sided. The Council officer, Therak, was the driving force behind the push to involve Earth in the conflict. As a veteran of many battles, Therak had seen firsthand the chaos that could be unleashed by a species like humanity. Flashbacks began to surface in the officer's mind as he stood in the Council chamber, contemplating the decision. He remembered the first encounter his species had with Earth. The humans, then just a primitive race, had managed to survive a near-total annihilation by a more powerful alien species, the Zorathians. The Zorathians had invaded Earth, but instead of bowing to their superior technology and overwhelming force, the humans had fought back fiercely. The battle had been bloody, with entire cities wiped off the map. The humans had taken a heavy toll, but they had also shown a remarkable ability to adapt and innovate under pressure. It was that same stubborn will to survive that made Theric uneasy. He had witnessed how the humans, in the face of certain extinction, could pull off the impossible. They had developed weapons they could never have imagined before, and their use of AI had rapidly advanced to a point where they were creating autonomous combat machines. Even more troubling, they had developed cloaking technology, making their ships nearly invisible to even the most advanced detection systems in the galaxy. But it wasn't just Earth's military power that worried him. It was the humans themselves. They had a knack for unpredictability, for taking risks that no other species would dare. They had survived countless battles by refusing to submit, and Theric believed that if they were not kept in check, they could ignite an even greater war. If left to their own devices, humanity could become a dangerous force that no one could control. As the Council continued to deliberate, Theric's fears grew. He was convinced that allowing Earth to remain neutral in the conflict was too dangerous. He believed that their unpredictability, their unwillingness to follow orders, would eventually lead them to act on their own. And when that happened, he feared it would spark a galaxy-wide war that would devastate every species in the galaxy. The Zorathians had already been a powerful threat, but humanity was different. They were relentless, creative, and refused to be conquered. Theric's mind raced as he listened to the arguments around him. Despite the fact that some of the council members were advocating for peace, Theric could see the way things were heading. The decision had already been made in his mind. Humanity would be brought into the war, whether they liked it or not. The risks of leaving them out of the conflict were too high. It was better to control them now, to bring them into the fold, than to risk them becoming an uncontrollable wild card later. Meanwhile, Jonathan Clark, the human diplomat, sat helplessly in his seat. His efforts to reason with the council had been met with resistance, and now it seemed as though all hope was lost. He had tried to explain that humanity was not a threat, that Earth was not prepared for war, but the council's decision was already being shaped by fear and distrust. The warning he had sent had done little to sway their minds. The council was ready to deploy a forceful strike on Earth, and Jonathan's pleas fell on deaf ears. As the countdown to war began, Jonathan could feel the weight of the situation bearing down on him. The final decision was about to be made, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. The alarms blared in the background, signaling the beginning of an operation that would change the course of history. Jonathan knew that Earth's fate rested on the brink of disaster. There was still a chance, just a small one, that he could convince someone on the council to reconsider. But time was running out. He thought of his home, of the peaceful life humanity had built on Earth. No one had ever imagined that something so grand, so destructive, could come to their doorstep. The people of Earth had never expected to be involved in a galactic war. They had no desire for conquest or domination. They had no interest in becoming part of the greater galactic conflict. All they wanted was to be left in peace. But now, peace seemed like an impossible dream. The Council had made its decision, and Earth was about to be dragged into a war that no one on the planet was ready for. Jonathan couldn't help but wonder if humanity's greatest strength, its will to survive, was also its greatest weakness. Would that same drive to endure lead them into a conflict that would consume them all? As the countdown continued, the Council made its final preparations. Massive warships began to mobilize, their engines roaring as they moved toward Earth. The galaxy's most powerful species were coming together, ready to make their move. And as the warships deployed, Jonathan realized that the future of Earth and the galaxy itself was about to change forever. He had done everything he could to stop it. But now the fate of humanity was in the hands of those who had never understood them, who had never seen the fire that burned in their hearts. The countdown reached its final moments, and the final decision was made. The forces of the Galactic Council would strike Earth, and there would be no turning back. Jonathan's last thoughts were of his people, of the planet he had sworn to protect. As the first shots of the war were fired, he knew one thing for certain. Earth's survival depended on its ability to adapt and fight back. The galaxy would soon learn the true strength of humanity. The air was thick with tension as the first strike force, a fleet of advanced eye-controlled warships, entered Earth's orbit. Their mission was clear: to force Earth into the Galactic War. The ships, sleek and menacing, glided silently through the vastness of space, their cloaking technology ensuring that they remained undetected until the last possible moment. The Galactic Council had sent their best, believing that humanity would be helpless against the full might of their superior technology. However, what the aliens didn't expect was the sheer audacity of humanity's response. In the depths of space, hidden in the dark expanses between planets, Earth's warships lay in wait. For years, humanity had secretly prepared for this moment, developing technologies that no one outside their planet knew about. As the alien fleet approached Earth, the first sign of humanity's retaliation came in the form of a single, shuddering shockwave. From the far reaches of the solar system, massive warships, cloaked in invisibility, appeared out of nowhere, emerging from the shadows like ghosts. It was a calculated display of power that sent a ripple through the alien ranks. The eye-controlled ships, which had been designed to detect and eliminate threats, now found themselves in an entirely new kind of battle. They had underestimated humanity. They had thought Earth's primitive technology and untested military force would be easy to crush. Instead, they were met with fierce resistance from a planet they had never truly understood. Earth's newly developed fleet was not only a match for the advanced alien warships, but in many ways, it surpassed them. The human ships were equipped with the latest cloaking technology, making them nearly impossible to detect. Each ship was a formidable opponent, carrying eye-controlled fighters that moved with precision and efficiency. The battle began with a violent clash as the human fleet emerged from its invisible positions and unleashed an all-out attack on the unsuspecting alien forces. The eye-controlled warships, designed to handle any situation with cold, calculated efficiency, were thrown into chaos. The humans fought with a raw, untamed fury that even the most advanced aliens couldn't have predicted. Earth's warships, though not as advanced in raw power, had something that the alien fleets did not: a burning desire to protect their home and their people. The human fighters, many of them veterans who had trained for this day for years, fought with everything they had. The battle raged on as both sides exchanged fire, the sky over Earth turning into a chaotic mess of explosions and laser beams. The moment the battle began, it was clear that humanity was not going to back down. The alien strike force had thought that Earth would fall quickly, but now they were learning just how dangerous the human spirit could be. The humans were not only holding their own, they were winning. Their advanced weapon systems, including cloaked warships and powerful eye-controlled drones, began to tear through the alien lines. Ships that had once been nearly indestructible were now being disabled, their advanced shields no match for the relentless attacks of Earth's military. But the battle was not without its losses. General Bonner, a beloved leader and hero to his troops, had been at the front of the action. He had always been the type to lead from the front, inspiring his soldiers with his bravery and determination. But as the battle wore on, it became clear that not everyone would make it out alive. Bonner had led a daring assault on one of the alien flagship vessels, and as the battle intensified, he made the ultimate sacrifice. In a moment of unthinkable heroism, he ordered his ship to crash directly into an alien destroyer, ensuring that his team would survive and that the alien ship would be obliterated. Bonner's death sent shockwaves through the human ranks. His sacrifice wasn't just a loss for the military, it was a loss for the entire planet. He had been a symbol of hope, of what humanity could achieve when they fought for each other. Now, with his death, the weight of the conflict seemed even heavier. The diplomat, Jonathan Clark, who had been trying desperately to keep humanity out of the war, stood frozen as he watched the battle unfold. He knew that Bonner's death would be a rallying cry for the humans, pushing them further into the conflict. There would be no turning back now. For Jonathan, Bonner's death was a personal blow. He had worked with the general in negotiations, and he had come to respect him as a man of honor and integrity. But as the diplomat watched the battle rage on, he couldn't help but feel the terrible realization settling in. Humanity was no longer a passive participant in this war. They were now fully engaged, and their fight for survival was in full swing. There was no longer any doubt that Earth had become a battlefield. The aliens had underestimated them, and now they would pay the price. Back on the ground, in the heart of the human command center, the news of General Bonner's death spread like wildfire. His soldiers, who had looked up to him as a leader and mentor, felt a deep sense of loss. The man who had been their guiding force was gone, and in his place, they would have to fight with all the strength they had left. The emotional impact of Bonner's sacrifice was felt across the entire military, and it would fuel the human resolve in the battles to come. As the battle raged on above Earth, orbital bombardment began in earnest. The alien forces, unable to contend with the overwhelming power of Earth's fleet, began launching their final strikes on the planet's surface. Massive warships above Earth's atmosphere began to unleash devastating bombardments, tearing through cities and military bases. It seemed as though the aliens would destroy everything in their path. But even as Earth's cities burned, humanity refused to relent. Every strike that hit their planet only hardened their resolve to fight back. The diplomat knew that this was the moment that would define humanity's future. It wasn't just a war between two species, it was a fight for survival. And the cost of failure would be unimaginable. He had been trying so hard to keep humanity out of this conflict, but now, as the battle raged above him and Bonner's death weighed heavily on his heart, he knew that humanity had already chosen its path. There was no going back. The fight for Earth's survival had begun, and the entire galaxy would soon feel the full force of humanity's wrath. In the midst of the chaos, Jonathan found himself standing alone, staring out at the endless battle above. His mind was filled with memories of Earth's past, of the peaceful life humanity had once known. He had hoped for a future of diplomacy, of peaceful coexistence among the stars. But now, that future seemed more distant than ever. The war had come, and there was no telling where it would lead. All he knew was that humanity had just begun to show the galaxy what it was capable of. The strike force had arrived, and Earth had answered with fire. The battle for survival had only just begun. The battle had shifted from the vast expanse of space to the heart of the alien warships themselves. Earth's forces, now fully engaged, had joined the fray in ways that shocked their alien adversaries. The alien fleets, equipped with some of the most advanced technologies in the galaxy, had never faced an enemy like humanity before. Earth's military, though technologically outclassed in raw power, fought with a determination and ingenuity that left the aliens reeling. Humanity's warships, cloaked in invisibility, had already made their presence known, but now the real fight began. On the surface of Earth, cities burned under the bombardments of alien weapons, and the air was thick with smoke and fire. But in space, the real clash of civilizations was happening. Earth's forces, with a combination of human soldiers, robots, and AI drones, fought side by side in a desperate bid to keep their planet from destruction. The alien forces, while more technologically advanced, were not prepared for the way humans fought. Earth's soldiers fought with unyielding courage, pushing forward with every ounce of strength they had. Robots and AI drones, though powerful and precise, were only as effective as the human operators behind them. The humans' resilience and tactical brilliance became apparent as they used their knowledge of the terrain, guerrilla warfare tactics, and sheer human ingenuity to outsmart and overwhelm their alien enemies. The aliens had never anticipated such a fierce defense. In one brutal encounter, a group of human soldiers infiltrated an alien warship, They slipped through the tight corridors, using advanced tech like energy shields to deflect incoming fire. Their powerful blasters lit up the hallways, the sound of gunfire echoing in the narrow, metallic confines of the alien vessel. The humans were outnumbered and outgunned, but their sheer determination drove them forward. They fought through obstacles, taking out alien soldiers in close-quarters combat, moving with a precision that was both terrifying and exhilarating. The vivid details of the battle unfolded like a cinematic spectacle. As one soldier rounded a corner, he fired his blaster, catching an alien off guard. The explosion from the blast sent a shockwave through the ship, temporarily disabling the alien's shields. In the chaos, another soldier activated his cloaking device, slipping behind enemy lines and sabotaging the ship's core systems. The humans were no longer just fighting. They were adapting, improvising, and exploiting every weakness they could find. In one particularly intense moment, a human commander led a small squad into the depths of an alien destroyer. The mission was clear: disable the ship's core and prevent it from launching its devastating weapons. As they navigated through the corridors, the tension was palpable. Each step brought them closer to the heart of the alien war machine. They could hear the sounds of alien soldiers patrolling nearby, their footsteps echoing in the vast, empty hallways. Every shadow was a potential threat, every corner a potential trap. The humans moved with a blend of caution and urgency, knowing that time was running out. When they finally reached the ship's core, they found themselves in a desperate firefight. The alien soldiers were well-trained and heavily armed, but the humans fought with an intensity that was unmatched. They used every piece of technology at their disposal, from energy shields to advanced blasters, to hold their ground. In the midst of the battle, one soldier managed to plant an explosive device on the ship's core, triggering a chain reaction that set the alien vessel into a deadly spiral. The explosion ripped through the ship, sending shockwaves across the battlefield. The humans had succeeded, but at a heavy cost. Many of them fell in the process, their sacrifice marking a pivotal moment in the conflict. Despite being technologically outclassed, humanity's strengths lay not in their advanced weapons, but in their resilience and adaptability. The alien officers watching from their command centers were stunned by the humans' unpredictability. They had expected Earth's soldiers to falter, to be crushed under the weight of superior technology. But instead, humanity's ingenuity shone through, giving them the edge they needed to push back against the alien forces. The alien officer, who had once believed that humanity was a primitive species unworthy of consideration, watched in awe as the humans continued to fight with an unrelenting will. As the battle raged on, he began to question his own assumptions. Humanity's unpredictable nature, once seen as a weakness, had now become their greatest strength. The officer had been trained to think in terms of logic and precision, but the humans fought with something far more primal: emotion, passion, and a deep desire to protect their home. It was a quality that no amount of technology could replicate. He had seen the humans fight with a fearlessness that shook him to his core. They didn't fight like machines. They'd fought like beings who had everything to lose. The alien officer had underestimated them, and now, as he watched them continue to push back against the seemingly invincible alien warships, he realized that Earth's victory might not be as impossible as he had once thought. The humans were more than just survivors. They were fighters, willing to risk everything for the chance to defend their home. The clash between Earth's forces and the alien fleets had become more than just a battle of firepower. It was a battle of wills. The aliens, with their superior technology, had the advantage in terms of raw power, but the humans fought with a resolve that could not be broken. They were determined to protect their planet at any cost, even if it meant facing impossible odds. The alien officer, once confident in the superiority of the Galactic Council, now found himself questioning everything he had believed. As the battle continued, the humans began to gain ground. The alien warships, once so invincible, were now showing signs of wear. Their shields, though powerful, were not invulnerable to the relentless onslaught of human ingenuity. The alien forces were beginning to realize that they had underestimated the humans, and now they were paying the price. The humans had fought with everything they had, and now it seemed as though they might just win. The diplomat, Jonathan Clark, watched from his command post, his mind racing. He had tried so hard to keep Earth out of this war, to avoid the bloodshed that had already claimed so many lives. But now, as he saw the humans pushing back against the alien forces, he knew that there was no turning back. The fate of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. The battle was far from over, but humanity had proven one undeniable truth. They would never give up without a fight. The war had raged on for weeks, with both sides suffering heavy losses. The battle in space, the fierce combat on the surface of Earth, and the brutal attacks by alien fleets were only part of the larger conflict. But the true turning point of the war was yet to come. As the dust settled and the smoke cleared, the Galactic Council unveiled its ultimate weapon, a device unlike anything Earth had ever seen. It was an AI-driven mass destruction machine, capable of annihilating entire planets with a single strike. The Council believed that this weapon would finally crush humanity and end their rebellion once and for all. For the first time since the war began, there was a real sense of hopelessness on Earth. This weapon wasn't just a threat. It was the kind of weapon that could wipe out entire civilizations in seconds. Earth's forces had been fighting valiantly, but how could they possibly stand against something so powerful? The clock was ticking, and every moment that passed brought them closer to their own extinction. Yet, even in the face of this unimaginable power, humanity refused to give up. A small team of human soldiers, led by Commander Anna Hayes, was tasked with a mission that seemed impossible: to infiltrate the alien stronghold and destroy the weapon before it could be used. The mission was one of desperation. With Earth's fate hanging in the balance, the team of soldiers set out to face an enemy stronger, faster, and better equipped than they were. The Council's stronghold was well protected, with layers of automated defense systems, armed alien soldiers, and a vast network of AI controlling every aspect of the base. But the humans had something that the aliens did not: determination, and the belief that their fight was worth every sacrifice. The team infiltrated the alien stronghold under the cover of darkness, using every tool and weapon at their disposal. Earth's advanced technology, including cloaking devices and AI-controlled drones, allowed them to sneak past the initial defenses, but the deeper they got into the heart of the enemy's territory, the more perilous their journey became. The alien security systems were constantly adapting, and it wasn't long before the team found themselves under attack. Automated defense drones, faster and more precise than anything humanity had ever seen, began to hunt them down. The humans, though outgunned, fought with everything they had. The scene unfolded in a flurry of explosions, blaster fire, and close-quarters combat. The soldiers moved quickly, using their guerrilla tactics to stay one step ahead of the enemy. They hacked into the base's systems, disabling security doors and triggering alarms to draw the attention of the automated drones. In one explosive sequence, a soldier deployed a series of flashbangs, temporarily blinding the enemy and giving the team the opportunity to slip past an ambush. They were relentless, but so were the enemy forces. As the team pushed further into the stronghold, they encountered alien soldiers who fought with brutal efficiency. But humanity's soldiers, though smaller in number, had something the aliens couldn't replicate: fierce loyalty and unshakable will. They fought not just for survival, but for the people they loved, for their families, and for the future of their planet. This bond, this sense of unity, made them an unstoppable force in the face of overwhelming odds. Despite their best efforts, the team began to suffer heavy casualties. One by one, they fell in the heat of battle. It was a stark reminder of the cost of war. The alien forces, with their superior firepower and AI-driven precision, tore through the team like a storm. But the remaining soldiers didn't falter. They pressed on, determined to complete their mission, no matter the price. Commander Hayes, who had been leading the charge, was now the last remaining member of her squad. Her heart was heavy with grief as she looked at the bodies of her fallen comrades. But there was no time to mourn. The weapon was just ahead, and Earth's survival depended on them reaching it. The weight of the mission, the weight of the lives lost, rested on her shoulders. She had to finish what they started. Finally, they reached the core of the stronghold, where the mass destruction device stood ready to unleash its devastating power. It was an imposing structure, unlike anything they had ever seen, an intricate web of AI, energy shields, and weaponized technology, all designed to deliver a single catastrophic blow. The humans knew they had no time to waste. If they didn't disable the device now, it would be too late. As Commander Hayes approached the device, she felt a cold chill run down her spine. This was it, the moment that would determine the fate of Earth. She could hear the sound of her own heartbeat in her ears, the pressure mounting with every passing second. She ordered her remaining soldiers to cover her as she began the process of disabling the device's central core. But just as she began the countdown, a new wave of alien soldiers appeared, forcing them into a final stand. The battle to destroy the weapon became a blur of blaster fire, desperate maneuvering, and last-minute heroics. Every soldier knew this was their last chance, and they fought with a fierce, unwavering determination. They held their ground, knowing that the fate of the galaxy rested on their shoulders. The tension was unbearable as the countdown to the weapon's destruction continued, but time was running out. In the final moments of the battle, a tragic event unfolded. The diplomat's close friend, Colonel Marcus Leary, had been part of the team. He had been with them every step of the way, providing support and leadership. But as the countdown reached its final moments, Marcus saw that one of the soldiers was pinned down by enemy fire, unable to reach the safety of the team. Without a second thought, he charged forward, disregarding his own safety to help his comrades. He reached the soldier and pulled him to safety, but in the process, he was struck by a blast from the enemy's weapons. His body fell, and in that moment, everything seemed to slow down. The loss of Marcus was devastating. The remaining soldiers, including Commander Hayes, felt a surge of grief and anger. His death was the final straw, the moment when everything they had fought for became real. They had lost so much, but they couldn't stop now. They had to finish the mission, no matter the cost. The diplomat, Jonathan Clark, watching from the command center, felt the pain of the loss as well. Marcus had been more than just a colleague. He was a friend. The sacrifice of so many lives, including Marcus's, weighed heavily on him. As the device finally deactivated, the soldiers stood victorious, but at a heavy cost. The weapon that had threatened to wipe out humanity was no more, and Earth had narrowly escaped extinction. But the victory was bittersweet. The battle was far from over, and more sacrifices were yet to come. The death of Marcus and so many others reminded them of the harsh reality of war, that it was never just about winning. It was about the lives lost along the way. The turning point had been reached, but the journey was far from over. Humanity had survived the first wave of destruction, but the war was far from won. The future of Earth remained uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity would never stop fighting. They had proven that they would sacrifice everything to protect their home. The final battle in the war for Earth's survival had arrived, and this time it was different. The stakes were higher, and the odds were greater. After months of relentless fighting, humanity had managed to hold its ground against the superior forces of the Galactic Council. However, the Council was not one to back down. They had sent their most powerful fleet to confront Earth, and they had deployed their final weapon, an AI-driven mass destruction device capable of obliterating entire planets. Now the battle was taking place not on the ground, but in the skies, in orbit above Earth, where the fate of the planet hung in the balance. Humanity's forces had gathered in space for the most crucial mission yet. Earth's fleet, a mixture of advanced warships, AI-controlled fighters, and human soldiers, was ready to launch a full-scale assault on the Galactic Council's flagship. If they succeeded in crippling the flagship, they knew they could force the Council into retreat. But failure meant the end of Earth's existence. The entire human race was on the line. There could be no turning back. The human fleet launched into action with a fierce determination that echoed the defiance of humanity itself. The ships moved in perfect formation, weaving through a series of explosions and debris, and prepared to engage in a brutal combat with the Council's overwhelming forces. The sky was lit up with flashes of laser fire, missiles, and powerful energy blasts. As the human ships fought their way through the battlefield, the sound of the orbital lasers clashing with the enemy shields was deafening, and the sight of the destruction was nothing short of spectacular. The stakes were high, but the humans fought like they had nothing left to lose. The final stand was a chaotic, high-intensity affair. The Council's flagship was a massive vessel, towering over the battlefield like a fortress. It was equipped with the most advanced weaponry in the galaxy, but humanity's fleet was relentless. The human ships zigzagged through the explosions, narrowly avoiding enemy fire, and fired their own weapons in return, sending shockwaves through the alien fleet. Missiles streaked across the dark sky, and the ships darted past each other in a deadly game of cat and mouse. Meanwhile, on the ground, the diplomat Jonathan Clark was watching the battle unfold from his command center. He had always believed in humanity's potential, but the scale of the conflict had made him question everything. Now, though, he was certain. As he watched the human fleet launch its assault, he felt an overwhelming sense of pride and hope. Humanity had proven time and time again that it would never back down, no matter the odds. The battle raging above Earth was the ultimate test of that resolve. As the battle raged on in space, the diplomat knew that it wasn't just about winning. It was about sending a message. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer an underdog. They had fought, bled, and sacrificed, and now they were standing tall against the most powerful force in the galaxy. It was time to remind the Galactic Council of one simple truth: they had underestimated humanity. The diplomat made his way to a secure communication channel and sent a message directly to the Council. "You've underestimated us," he said, his voice steady but full of conviction. "Don't let this war destroy everything. Let us stand as equals, or face the consequences of humanity's wrath." It was a bold statement, one that would echo across the stars. The Council officer who had been at the forefront of the war against humanity, the officer who had dismissed humans as nothing more than a reckless, unpredictable force, was listening. He had watched the human forces fight with unyielding determination. He had seen the sacrifices made by Earth's soldiers and civilians alike. And now, as the human fleet launched a final decisive strike against the Council's flagship, he felt something shift inside him. The officer had been certain of humanity's defeat. He had believed that Earth was no match for the superior technology and strategy of the Council. But now he saw the humans for what they truly were: survivors, fighters, and most importantly, equals. Their unpredictability had become their greatest strength, and it had left the Council vulnerable. The final battle came down to one last push. The human fleet, despite being outgunned and outnumbered, fought with everything they had. They attacked the flagship with a combination of precision and brute force, taking advantage of the smallest openings in the Council's defenses. The battle was intense. Ships collided, energy shields flickered under the strain, and the sky was filled with fiery explosions. Then, in the most critical moment, the human fleet launched a devastating volley of missiles, hitting the flagship's weak points. The ship trembled under the assault, its shields beginning to falter. The AI weapon that had once been humanity's greatest fear was disabled, its power source cut off, and the once imposing flagship began to falter. The human forces pushed forward, relentless in their assault. The flagship, now crippled, was no longer the imposing force it had once been. In the end, the Council officer who had once been the strongest proponent of the war against humanity stood in awe. He watched as the human forces triumphed, and for the first time, he understood the true power of humanity. He realized that they were no longer an underdog, but a force to be reckoned with. The defeat of the flagship signaled the end of the war, and the Council, broken and defeated, was forced into retreat. As the dust settled and the battlefield fell silent, the human fleet stood victorious. The war had been long, hard, and costly, but humanity had prevailed. The AI weapon had been destroyed, and the Galactic Council's flagship was crippled beyond repair. But more than that, humanity had proven its worth. The diplomat, Jonathan Clark, stood before the shattered remains of the Council's forces and knew that the future was uncertain, but there was hope. Humanity had earned its place in the galaxy. The story ended not with a definitive conclusion, but with a new beginning. The diplomat stood side by side with the Council officer who had once dismissed humanity. The officer, now deeply humbled by the bravery and determination of the human forces, knew that Earth had earned its right to be a part of the galactic community. Humanity had shown its strength, and it had proven that it would not be subjugated or destroyed. Together, they faced an uncertain but hopeful future. The galaxy was vast, and the challenges ahead were many, but for the first time, humanity stood as an equal among the stars. The final stand was over, and the future was theirs to shape.